Hey, what is up guys? GuitarRock here. Welcome back to another counter-side video. Alright, one of the most common questions that I do get asked a lot until today is, hey GuitarRock, which characters do I keep? Which characters do I build 2 copies of? That is one of the most common question. Building 2 copies of a character ideally makes a lot of sense if you try to get top ranks in Danger Close. Alright, so Danger Close is already available in global, right? So if you guys are not aware, basically you fight 2 bosses every 2 weeks and the bosses may vary. So depending on which boss you fight. So this is on C server, we have Nervier and Tyrant Sword this week. Global as Moderator Type B and Tyrant Sword, right? Having to build 2 of the same units enables you to use 2 of the same units in separate bosses, right? Because if you use a character right here in Tyrant Sword, if you guys are not aware, you cannot use these characters in the other boss. So they basically lock you out of using the same character twice, as you can see right here. So some characters actually gets the insane benefit of getting 2 copies of, because you can build 2 of them. And obviously early on in the phase, building plenty of characters is going to be quite taxing because a lot of materials needed, right? But as time goes on, that's going to be less of an issue because there's not enough new characters to be released constantly that you won't have enough resources to gather at the same time, right? The pace is always going to, you're always going to outpace the game as a player eventually. So here's the thing, I've decided to make a tier list of 2 characters, which one I think are the best, will make an impact, especially in Danger Close scenario. Now let's jump into it. Now first things first, before we begin with today's video, there's a coupon code, new coupon code for you guys global players out there. Alright, so we're gonna be referring to this, I'm gonna try to attempt to make one right now. Okay, so this is not going to be how strong a character is in Danger Close, but rather whether or not they're useful in having 2 copies of, because some characters just excel way more in DC Danger Close than the others. Alright, so we're gonna split it into, yes, very useful in the long run, strong, but they have alternatives. Alright, so characters that are strong, nope, unless you're a whale, which I wouldn't recommend. No, period. Alright, you shouldn't do this at all. And last but not least, different server has different management ways. Alright, aka the collab characters. So let's start off with Admin Swords Fighter. How strong are they? They are really strong in Danger Close. They have alternatives. So who was their alternative? The alternative is going to be twins, Ainz and Zwei. So these 2, they actually have the same reason, same purpose, same role. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? If you're trying to tank in Danger Close, yes, they can do the same. Alright, so depending on how you plan to achieve that. But of course, Admin Swords Fighter do have more damage in the long run, especially if paired with New Detroit. So definitely, they are definitely going to be superior if you're looking for damage. But Ainz and Zwei will be able to provide more like CC. They are definitely more annoying in PvP, but in Danger Close, I feel like Admin Swords Fighter makes more sense in tankiness and stuff, because one of them die and then the other one will get full HP in return, right? So which is quite insane. So these 2 are like double unit version. Definitely, both of them have their usage for sure. Ainz and Zwei is still 2 costs, while Admin Swords Fighter is 3 costs. So definitely, it's going to be easier to cycle them as well, especially when you set them as leader, they become 1 cost. So moving on to the next one, the characters that are not yet in global, I will not include them yet. So next up is Chifuyu. Now Chifuyu is really strong. A lot of players are going to place them right here. But for me personally, alright, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think she's worth to build 2 copies of, because there's actually a budget Chifuyu, aka Roy Burnett. Alright, everybody's favorite husbando that in the future will get gender band skin version variation. Alright, so Chifuyu has the ability to tank as well as reduce or decrease the boss's defense. Now Roy Burnett can do somewhat the same. He has slightly way less stats, but he enables the boss to receive a damage taken from the ultimate. So they have the same similar purpose. I feel like you don't really need 2 versions of Chifuyu. Alright, so Roy can be substituted for Chifuyu, and Roy is an SR, so it makes more sense to build 2 Roy, but even then I don't think it's worth it because they do quite similar. So you can use one for one boss and one for the other, right? So Gaeyun, definitely no. She's strong, but I don't think you will need 2 copies of her. Same applies for Kao Wong. Alright, so Gaeyun and Kao Wong, you know, one for stun, one for shield, depending on what you actually need. Titan, definitely a nope, definitely going to stay here. Alright, Lee Sui on strike. She's strong, but again, no. Spyra, Joshiang would definitely stay here. These all would stay here. I would place Li Sui on strike a little bit above the rest, because there's also Estarossa which can compete with her, and Estarossa, once she gets rearm, she's actually really good. Estarossa rearm might actually be here depending, but getting 2 rearm is so expensive, so I'm not gonna say, hey, build 2 Estarossa rearm. Like, that's like an insane, unless you're super whale. Ideally, no. Kang, definitely no, just 1 copy is gonna be enough. Same goes for Elizabeth. Now Amy is so not useful in a lot of PvE contents, I'm just gonna put her right here with the rest of these soldiers, Evolve one, and you know, a bunch of other characters, right? So let's slowly move up the pace. Alex, do you need to build 2 copies? Not really. Alex can detect stealth. She is strong, but you don't really need to build copy. Now Rosaria might be not a bad option. Now again, she is one of the highest damage dealers if you're looking for a ranger. But there's an alternative to Rosaria, aka Kim Soping. Let me find her. Alright, so Kim Sobin is going to be able to do almost the same as her, unless you need the rangers to be able to hit air, because Kim Sobin can't hit air, so that's going to be an issue. Awaken Yumina might actually be useful for a lot of players. Now she is quite strong in danger close because of how she's built. She has a lot of burst damage. For 6 costs, she might actually be worth to build 2 copies of if you have to. Now, my advice to a lot of players that play on C, if you guys are not aware, right? On C server, a lot of players that pull for Awaken Mina, they get 1 more version, or they can choose between Awaken Hilde and Awaken Mina at the 1st anniversary. So my advice is you pick Awaken Mina because she's very useful in danger close and she's very useful to have 2 copies of compared to Awaken Hilde. But is she really, you know, that needed to be here? I think she's like in between. She is, in my humble opinion, I think she's the best Awaken for danger close, even though most players don't use Awaken characters in danger close, right? But I do think that she's one of the best because of how much DPS she can provide. The thing is, with Awaken Horizon, is it really needed to have 2 Awaken Mina? Probably not. So I'm just gonna place her here. But if you have 2 copies, happen to have 2 copies, I think she's a very good option for a lot of players. Now, Admin Rifleman, this one I can argue that having 2 copies is going to be insane value. Number 1, they are 2 cost unit, very cheap budget option. Number 2, they are SR, granted, I think you're gonna have plenty of copies to get them easily. And yeah, I do think that if you ever fight 2 separate bosses that needs rangers or soldiers are buff, this guy is going to be the best out of all the rangers, period, right? So I think the value is definitely there. Having 2 copies of him is going to be extremely beneficial. Now, Xiaolin is strong, but you don't need 2 copies of, but she's going to be right here in case players want to build 2 Xiaolin. Then, not for danger close, but this is for in the future, in rearm, she will have 2 multiple versions, right? One for, you can build one for Castro Xiaolin, which is the sniper, upgraded rearm sniper, and one more is the Nest Keeper Xiaolin, which is a tower version. So I'm going to put her right there, not because she's good in danger close, but because in the future, you can definitely build 2 separate versions. So definitely useful to have her on top of the list. So since this tier list is more of characters that you want to build 2 versions of. Alright, so moving on, Janus, strong but not really. She is competing with Rosaria. Janus is competing with Rosaria and Kim Sobin in terms of damage. If you have good mech gears, definitely they are right there. Lyudmila is strong, but you don't really need 2 copies of. Now, Ifrit is going to be really strong. Not only is Ifrit strong in PvE, Ifrit is strong in PvP as well. So Ifrit is by far, if you can have 2 copies of Ifrit, if you are a whale, you want to have 2 copies of Ifrit, this is what a lot of players do. They build 1 copy of Ifrit for PvP, and 1 copy of Ifrit for PvE. So what's the difference, right? The difference is the PvP version. Alright, you don't want to upgrade the skill 2, which is Ifrit's passive skill. So this is something that common knowledge that a lot of players know, right? So the reason why is because this skill, if you build up to level 5, Ifrit will gain 100% barrier, and Ifrit will get one-shotted by Awaken Nayubin in PvP. So therefore, if you build your Ifrit, if you're poor, you only have 1 Ifrit, you shouldn't upgrade this skill at all. Alright, so keep that in mind. I've already made that Ifrit guide back then. You guys can go watch a more detailed one. So definitely, this is something that you want to consider doing if you are a global player. This guy is very strong. He will have one of the highest DPS, highest damage per second. So building 2, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And he can hit air. One of the few strikers that can hit air as well. Now, Laura, you definitely don't really need. Strong, but don't really need. Liumi can stay here. Awaken Yuna. Awaken Yuna is strong, but you definitely only need one copy. Alright, definitely only need one copy. Awaken Xiaoyun. Now, she is kind of good in danger close, for sure. But do you really need to? Not really. Alright, same applies for Awaken Li Suyon. They are very flexible. They can be used in a lot of danger closest bosses, but you don't really need 2 copies of them. So I'm going to keep where they are. Serape and Overflow should be here. Replacer King is here. Now, Veronica, I might argue that she is quite strong. Her immortality is crazy. She's one of the best, tank or so-called a tank, striker tank that can do a lot, right, when she's immortal. So having 2 copies is kind of good because she is less demanding, alright? So obviously, you can have one at 110 and one more at level 100. You don't really need to have both at 110. She's going to be quite flexible and quite good to have until Estarossa gets rearmed. So once you have rearmed Estarossa and Veronica side by side, then it's going to be like, you can have one of them for each of the boss, which is going to be very helpful. So obviously both have immortality, right? But because, Global don't have access to her yet, so I'm just going to place her right here. But you can consider, if you have 2 copies, you can consider to build her. But once rearmed Estarossa comes, you probably won't need 2 copies of Veronica. So that's where I'm going to stick her in. Replacer Queen is strong, but definitely not, you don't need 2 copies of, for sure. Alright, so let's go on. Ministra, Nayubin, Awaken Nayubin, Replacer King, all can stay here. Rita is strong. I'm going to move her up a little bit, but you don't need 2 copies again. They have alternatives as well. So Brownie Moore can be there. Replacer Knight, nope. Chinatsu, nope. Harap, nope. Harap should go down here. You should never have 2 copies of because she is so PvP focused. I don't think there's any danger close that you will ever need to use her. Now, Awaken Jushiyun can stay here as well. Young Harim, yes. Arguably, is Young Harim more useful than Ifrit? I would say yes. Young Harim is going to make your life so easy. Until today, in KR server, there's no supporter that can do what Young Harim does. There's no replacement for her. She does so many things. Alright, it's just insane that she's one of the first unit you get in the game. And in the long run, until 2 or 3 years later, she's still the top tier lolly, top tier supporter in the game. Alright, having 2 copies is so useful. Alright, you get almost every danger close boss, you will need a Young Harim. Like, there's no way that Young Harim is bad in any danger close boss. Alright, so like Tyrant Sword, you can use her. Moderator type A, you can use her. Moderator type B, you can use her. Every danger close that you can think of, most likely she will be able to do something for your team to enable, the score, the buff. And having 2 copies of her is going to help your account tremendously. Yumina can stay here. John Mason, you don't need 2 copies. Tarask, I might argue that Tarask might be one of the few that will be able to do same thing as Chifuyu, right? So again, Chifuyu have a budget rival, budget option. So that's why, Chifuyu, Roy, and Tarask almost doing the same thing, right? So moving on, Sylvia, you only need 1 copy. Estab you only need 1 copy. Sanae, that more than likely you only need 1 copy. Now Evelyn is strong. You know what? Evelyn, you don't really need 2 copy as well, so she can stay there. Sanae can stay here. Lee Jisoo. Now Ingrid, I might argue that she is quite useful in danger close. A lot of danger close you will be able to use her because she has the ability to be deployed anywhere. So that gives her the flexibility to suddenly be all the way in front, right? All the way in front, and just cut the time for you to deploy her at the back and slowly move forward to the front. So having that ability is just so flexible. Plus, she's an R unit. If she's an SSR, I would have placed her right here because there's other options that can be deployed anywhere. But because she's an R unit, I think she's one of the best R units to build 2 copies of. Like, if there's one R unit that you want to build 2 copies of, I think Ingrid is going to be the one. Like, she's just so useful. Obviously, if you rely on auto, she's going to be useless because if you auto everything, the AI is going to deploy her anyways at the ship, right? But if you manual, that's where you can see her usefulness. The cut time that you are able to just deploy at the enemy for danger close is insane. Alright, it just gives you the insane value. So I'm going to place her in the top tier as well. So this guy is strong. Again, you might argue that they can be deployed anywhere so they can compete with Ingrid, but they are way squishier than Ingrid. Alright, Ingrid can provide way more in terms of tankiness, and also if she lasts more, she can also do more damage. So this guy, I would say, not as useful as admin rifleman to have multiple copies of, but they are strong. I don't think you need 2 copies though. So I'm going to place him right here. So moving on, now we have Eddie Fisher. Again, very strong, good buff. Place him right here. Now, Ju Shiyun is going to be one of the few that I would say, if you can, get one more Ju Shiyun and build 2. Alright, now if you guys are not aware, one of the strongest Ju Shiyun danger close moment is when he's fighting the Tyrant Sword, which Global has this week. And last week, 2 weeks ago, Global has this boss called Solicitatio, right? So again, these 2 bosses have occurred at the same time before on C server, and you need 2 Ju Shiyun for that. So how do you get the second Ju Shiyun? So obviously you can farm from the side story. So if you guys are not aware, you will have one for free, right? Easily. The first Ju Shiyun you can obtain for free. This one, the Crossroads. So you will be able to farm Ju Shiyun shards and get a second copy. So hopefully you guys prepare for that for Global, especially if you are a serious, serious danger close player. Ju Shiyun is going to be quite worth it in the long run. Now, moving on, SR Hilde. She is strong, but you don't really need multiple copies of, similar to Eddie Fisher. Kim Chuso can stay here. You know what? Kim Chuso shall be moved down. Boom. Alright, so that's where Kim Chuso belongs. Okay, so where am I? Ironside, Sparrow can stay here. Leaf Island can stay here. Again, Fionn can stay here. Choi Ina, arguably, again, really strong, but I don't think you need 2 copies of. But I'm going to move her up 1 tier, like in case anybody wants to build 2 copies. She is not a bad option, right? But I don't really see the benefit of having so many of her, like, because Sigma is better. Speaking of Sigma, Sigma is one of the better characters to have 2 copies of, right? I do agree that Sigma is extremely strong, and I'm going to place her in the top tier because she does so much. Not only can she give deployment cost, deployment resource, she also can summon Daddy CEO, which helps you out in the long run. Alright, so as you can see, Bomi, Hiroshi Aki, Ares, all of these have alternatives. You don't really use Ares in danger close that much unless when she's buff. Irie, you don't really need that much. Can be useful in striker teams to help tank a little bit, but that's about it. Arachne, you just need 1 copy of. All of these, you basically pretty much just need 1 copy of. Now, Gabriel Jun is very strong and unique. You have to have at least 1 copy of. There's no need for you to have 2 copy of Gabriel Jun, right? But because he's one of the stronger ones, I'm going to place him out there. Now, Global don't have access to Dash yet, but Dash is definitely one of the better characters to... You can farm her in the side story, similar to Rivet, and she's quite strong. She's a sniper that can debuff, similar to what Tarask can do. So definitely can consider if you want to have 2 copies, because she is farmable anyways. But is she like top tier in danger close? Not as strong as Young Harem, so has to be 1 tier below. Now, this girl, Sky Layfield, considerably, some players consider her to be as strong as Young Harem. She has one of the highest attack buff in the game, right? So she is definitely competing with Young Harem as top tier supporters, but I haven't had the chance to test her enough, and I can't verify that you actually need 2 copies of. I feel like if you have Young Harem still provide much more overall. I don't think she's at the same tier of Young Harem. To be honest, I honestly think she's 1 tier below, so I'm going to place her right here. 1 copy is more than enough, but yeah, if you happen to have 2, I guess, you know, you can bring 2 in 2 danger close, but I still feel like Young Harem is the one that you need more than her, because you can only bring so much units in the DC, right? Now, Seoyun and Shinja, arguably one of the best buffers in danger close. So this one, if you can build 2 copies of, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So highly recommend the regular Seoyun and the regular Shinja. So what they do is Seoyun buffs everybody's attack by 30% at the end, right? 30% attack at the buff. Shinja gives attack speed and a little bit of crit, was it crit damage or crit rate, something along those lines. And yeah, both are very useful buffs to increase your score, increase your overall team's damage, someone that you deploy at the end. So definitely consider them as an option to build 2 copies of. Now, Frederick Doma is really strong, right? But is he like a top tier danger close unit? I don't think he's as top as where Seoyun and Shinja is. I don't think many players have 2 copies or built 2 copies of this guy. So I feel like this guy, yes, similar to what Chifuyu can do, Roy can do, this guy can do. I feel like yes, they are almost in the same tier. They do almost the same thing: increase damage taken, reducing boss's defense, increasing the score overall. But in terms of versatility, Xiaoyun and Shinja still has more of that. Now, last but not least, Lin Xian. Now, personally, I do think that Lin Xian is really strong, and I do think that having 2 Lin Xians is going to benefit you more than you think. Now, Lin Xian, if you guys are not aware, the raids, you can basically use 2 Lin Xian. So one, you set as your, what you call this, branch manager, right? You set a Lin Xian as your branch manager. So she's right here, she's just chilling. And then, if you have a separate Lin Xian, you can bring him into the raid. So somehow, in your raids, you're gonna have 2 Lin Xian. So there's a lot of strat that people use in their, what you call this, for their raid team. So having 2 Lin Xian give you a lot of flexibility. You get more deployment resource in return every time that Lin Xian managed to get off the ultimate. So you can consider doing this strat. Personally, I'm not running this strat because I'm not struggling in any raids currently. But yeah, it does push your deployment resource, and it's something that a lot of players told me that they have been doing, and it works. So yeah, that sums it up for this video. So hopefully let me know what you guys think, if you guys agree or disagree with the list. I do think that the best units to have 2 copies of are these characters right here: Young Harem, we have Ifrit, we have Admin Rifleman, Xiaolin, because you know, Castro Xiaolin and Nestkeeper Xiaolin. Ingrid is a very good budget option. Shiyun, 2 copies in Danger Close, very useful. Same applies for Sigma. Xiaoyun and Shinja, both very good buffers. And lastly, Lin Xian. Now the rest, these are the strong ones. I think if you have 2 copies, sure, but I wouldn't purposely pull for them. They have competing rivals or different units, alternatives that can do almost the same thing as them. So I don't think they should be the priority for you to build 2 copies of, but they're not bad. They are like one of the top tier characters that use a lot in Danger Close. And the rest will be nope, unless if you are a whale. These you don't really need 2 copies of. And no period, which are all of these. And last but not least, different server has different management ways, which are characters, units that we will never have. Maybe one day we'll have some of the new characters that we'll never have in other server. We'll see. We'll see what kind of collaboration we'll ever have. Alright guys, so that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you enjoy it. Slightly long video, but hey, take care. As always, if you haven't already subscribed, give this video a like. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. Goodbye.